Hi, I'm Pete and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. For the conclusion of Farmall week here on my channel, I've gotten out the old tractors and we're going to spread some manure with them today. It's important that these old gals get some work once in a while. Let me introduce my cast of characters. This is a 1924 McCormick Deering 1020. It is the oldest tractor I own. And coming over here, the 1940H, which you see in a lot of videos. The 1939 F-20. To do the spreading work, a New Idea 12A manure spreader made around 1950. And to load the manure, a 1964 Farmall 504. Let's get to work. First up is the Farmall H. I fire up the 504 and start loading the spreader. It only takes 3 or 4 scoops to make a full load. The H starts right up with its new old distributor ignition. This is the first work I've done with it since the replacement. The H really is a joy to drive. The controls are easy to use, it has a solid feel to it, and it sounds great when it's working. I'm going way down to the lower field to spread and have to go through a bunch of fence gates. To start the spreader, there are 2 levers. One engages the apron chain to move the manure slowly toward the rear of the spreader, and the other engages the spinning beaters that fling the manure. I'm glad to have the H back in action. When it quit last spring, I thought it needed major work, but it turned out to be just a bad magneto. The fall foliage on the trees is beautiful this year. I wonder if the drought made them brighter. It doesn't take long to spread a load. I disengage the spreader and head back up to put on another load. This spreader has a unique hitch jack. The lever in it allows it to lift a lot of weight without a lot of muscle power. Now it's time to give the F-20 a turn. It's a lot more complicated to start than the H. It doesn't always work out right for filming. Let her warm up a little bit this time. I think it's running a little lean and needs carburetor adjustment. On some of my tractors, carburetor needs adjustment seasonally depending on the outside temperature. It's cool today. I'm not shutting this tractor off while I load. I don't want to have to crank it again. Driving the F-20 is quite a contrast to driving the H. The seating position is kind of weird with my legs out in front of me and me in the seat hanging out over the drawbar. I have to bend forward quite a ways to reach the gear shifter. That little lever by the steering wheel is the manual spark advance. When I throttle the tractor up or down, I adjust that as well to keep it running smoothly. The F-20 pulls the spreader easily. I'm sure it would outpull the H if they went head to head. The tractor feels more top heavy than the H, but I think that's mostly because I'm sitting up higher on the machine. The transmissions in these tractors have a lot of gear noise, and that's normal. One thing that impresses me about these old Farmalls is how easy they are to steer. There was no power steering in those days, so the engineers put a lot of thought into creating easy steering. The spreader's empty once again. Time to head back for another load. Sometimes I have to back up a little bit to help disengage the beater chain from the drive sprocket. So, how is running the F-20 compared to the H? Well, the H is a lot easier to use. It starts with a push of a button and it's more comfortable to drive. But the F-20 has more lugging power. I shut the F-20 down by turning off the fuel and letting the carburetor run dry. That takes a while. That carburetor's got a big bowl. Next it's time to start the really old tractor, the 1924 1020. Before starting I have to oil the rocker arms, set the impulse coupling on the magneto, retard the spark, and set the throttle and choke. A few pulls to prime the manifold with gas. Then I set the choke to half. Does this thing have gas in it? Not much. She kicked back. That's the first time I've ever had a crank kick back. And that's why it's so important to hold the crank correctly. No harm done. I love the sound that engine makes at low idle. I've owned this tractor for about 10 years, but this is the first real work I've actually ever done with it. We'll see how she does. I'll tell you what, this is like driving a tank. I just feel like nothing will stop this tractor. And just like a tank, the 1020 is not easy to drive. The spark advance and gear shift are hard to reach, and the clutch is on the right instead of the left, so I really have to think about it when I want to stop the tractor. Your seating position is more like driving a car. You're seated down low, and you can't see around the tractor as well. It doesn't have the innovations that the Farmall models had. And it sure is a bumpy ride with those steel wheels. But she sure sounds good with that straight pipe exhaust. She pulls the manure spreader with no problem. Of the 3 tractors I've used, this engine has the most displacement and the lowest RPM. Maximum engine speed is about 1,000 RPM. I think it's amazing that this tractor is almost 100 years old and can still get the job done. Well, let me tell you, that was some exercise for both me and the tractors. It's important to keep these old gals around and give them some exercise. It's part of keeping history alive, but I'll tell you, if I had to drive this beast every day, I'd be having ibuprofen for dinner every night. I hope you enjoyed Farmall week, and stay well, and I'll see you next time.